if I wanted to anyway. Women are lucky, we can be any height we want to be, thanks to our 6 and 9 inches shoes.
I'm not wearing those.
You can't.
Okay, there have been some great speeches, haven't there? There's been a lot of passion, energy, a lot of information. I've tried to absorb as much as I can, but I know not everything will be retained, so what do I do?
No, we're just hoping that these speeches will translate into the money we need for the power sector in Nigeria. We need to talk about what we want, but at the same time, we need to see the results, please. So at the end of the day, it's what we're able to get out of this that's really very important. Thank you very much, Honorable Ihariale. Who's coming next?
Well, before we do actually, those speeches I should mention, I should ask all the people, including the ministers who had such great speeches, to please make sure that Ambassador Igali receives those speeches, because I think the repertoires and the journalists, and there's an online demand to hear these things and see some of these things. So ushers will come and find you to take your hard copy, and if you have soft copy, even better, so that we can duplicate this, replicate this, and disseminate this all over the world. Thank you. Now, none of this is going to be possible without our development partners. So I think it would be right of us to invite a couple of them over to the microphone to give a goodwill message. First and foremost, the African Development Bank is instrumental in visualizing this bright new future. So I'd like to invite over T. Zondo Sakala, who is the Vice President of the African Development Bank, just to say a few words. Ladies and gentlemen, T. Zondo Sakala.
Thank you. Don't be scared by the thick sheets of papers I had. I'll try to move as quickly as possible. Your Excellency Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Architect Mohammed Namadi Sambo, and all other protocols observed. On behalf of the African Development Bank and President Donald Kaberuka, let me start by congratulating the Federal Republic of Nigeria for its continued commitment to growth, macroeconomic stability, and the transformation of the socio-economic conditions of Nigerians. We have heard from the Honorable Minister of Finance the very good statistics. We have also heard about Nigeria being one of the emerging African economic giants, which has been recognized as one of the mid countries that have potential to influence the global economy. All this is good news. Nonetheless, the performance can even be stronger if some of the challenges that are faced in Nigeria and in Africa in general are removed. These, has already been recognized, include the huge infrastructure deficit, particularly in the power sector. We must all work together to address these challenges if we are to transform African economies and impact on the livelihoods of our people in a positive and sustainable manner. In response to requests from our member countries, including Nigeria, the African Development Bank developed a 10-year strategy for the period 2013-2022 to support and promote Africa's economic transformation. The strategy has two objectives, i.e., inclusive growth and the transition to green economies. To this end, we will be focusing in 5 operational areas: infrastructure, private sector development, promotion of good governance, and in which includes transparent, efficient, and sustainable management of the abundant natural resources which many of our African countries have. We are also going to be helping to promote regional integration and skills development and technology. We are also committed in ensuring that in all our operations, we will pay close attention to issues of gender, food security, and fragile situations. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, infrastructure, addressing the crippling infrastructure deficit is at the core of our business at the African Development Bank. In our current active portfolio of about $25 billion, 17 billion is in infrastructure. We have also just launched the Africa 50 Fund, which is an innovative mechanism primarily aimed at unlocking Africans' own financial resources to accelerate infrastructure delivery in Africa. And I think, as Honorable Aganga has actually shared with us, a lot of the money we need is here at home. The power sector, which is the focus of this gathering, is critical for the economic transformation. In June last year, addressing the US-India strategic partnerships in New Delhi, US Secretary of State John Kerry had this to say, quote, "Access to energy is the essential ingredient of economic development. You cannot create jobs in the dark," end of quote. This is as true in the United States of America, in India, as it is in Nigeria, in Africa, and in all our villages. The bank, therefore, salutes the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the strong achievements already registered in the first phase of the most ambitious electricity sector reform program in Africa. We are also happy to note that the Federal Republic of Nigeria has taken a number of key steps in line with best practices worldwide in managing the transition to a market-driven electricity sector. And these have already been highlighted, involving NEC, bulk trader, outsourcing of the management of the transmission company, and establishment of a national power training institute to provide some of the needed skills in the sector. Despite these achievements, three critical challenges must be addressed, and we are happy to note they've already been also cited earlier on. The first is the issue of long-term finance for new generation and distribution companies, and the Honorable Minister of Finance has given us some estimates in this direction. In contribution, the African Development Bank is providing a modest sum as a partial risk guarantee amounting to $380 million to private sectors to help them crowd in investments. We are also providing a soft ADF loan amounting to about $3 million for capacity development in support of the privatization program itself. Second, we recognize there is a difficulty in obtaining right-of-way for transmission line development. Here again, the African Development Bank is currently providing support to improve interventions in the power transmission systems to the tune of $150 million. It will also be recalled that one of our recent past projects in Nigeria was the multinational Nigeria-Benin-Togo interconnection project. We do believe very strongly in regional power pools. Third is the issue of insufficient gas supplies to some of the power plants across the country. And we have already been told of actions that are already being done or are lined up. With its huge endowment of gas reserves estimated at 185 trillion cubic feet, time is ripe for Nigeria to pay the necessary serious attention to this vital sector. We at the African Development Bank will be ready to also participate, as we did in the past in the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas project. Given the current issues facing the sector, alternative energy sources are also needed to support growth of industries and rural electrification. Our study, which was cited earlier on, estimates that about $63 billion is needed for the development of Nigeria's power sector in the decade ahead. This poses, of course, a major challenge for the country, for both the public and the private sector. It will require vision and unwavering principled commitment of the whole spectrum of the Nigerian political class, and a strong partnership among the national, state governments, the private sector, and the international development community. In conclusion, on behalf of President Donald Kaberuka, I wish to reiterate that the African Development Bank is committed to support ongoing reforms in Nigeria, and we stand ready to help Nigeria attract private investment in the power sector in order to position the country for sustainable and